Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Take Chat show. We're glad that you were able to join us this afternoon and morning. My name is Tutu Aladesuru, and with me are my girlfriends. Ladies, please say hi.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. So we have Tosi, Nike, and Lola. And my take is a place where we ladies hang out and discuss issues of what's going on today, sometimes very hot issues. And our goal is to promote a culture of love, compassion, as well as truth and candidness. On today's episode, we are discussing if love is truly enough to sustain any relationship. I mean, in my own my way, I would say who love Ep. We're going to, as we, get older and transition in life, and our children become more independent, some going off to college, some starting work, we are seeing more and more marriages take the hit, some getting divorced, or some, just some couples growing apart. So it seems this has become a global issue. For example, we witnessed the divorce of the Bezos in 2019, and recently the announcement by Bill and Melinda Gates. So we would like to explore what is really behind this phenomenon right now. And I would like our audience to join us. Please feel free to put in your comments. We really would look forward to reading your comments and share your thoughts with us as we engage today. So to kick us off, it's been said that love is the most powerful force on earth. However, there are other things two people in a loving and committed relationship should consider before getting married. So if there are other things people should consider beyond love, would like to hear your take. And I'm going to be asking Lola, what do you think? What else should people going into a relationship consider beyond love? Or do you think love is enough?
Thank you, Tutu. It's interesting that I'm starting the conversation off, answering the first question because I've given this a lot of thought, and it's been a conversation in our house, being that I have girls, and we've been watching a lot of during this whole COVID situation. We've been watching a lot of reality TV, a lot of TV in general, which has generated a lot of conversation between myself and my girls. And so it's been interesting discussion. If you had asked me this question like 20 something years ago before I got married, I would have told you, and my answer would have been very different. I would have told you, yes, love conquers all. Love is absolutely enough. Love is what you're looking for. And that was what I was looking for when I was trying to get married. I was looking to fall in love with someone and that person loved me. And if that happened, then we were good to go. We were ready for marriage, Now, of course, my answer is absolutely not. This is from 20 plus years of experience, of seeing life as a married person, of, being around other people, that love implies heart. Love is a factor of the heart, right? So, when you say you love someone or you're falling in love with someone, you're saying that you love that person makes you feel appreciated, makes you feel seen. Person makes you feel heard, and you get this feeling, associated with it, and vice versa. But at the end of the day, what is important is the head. I feel the person you're marrying, the head has to be correct. If that head is not correct, love, that heart thing will go away quicker than, you can say Jack Robinson. It's love is fleeting, and the anchor really should be elsewhere. And so I would say there are definitely other factors to consider. For example, core values, shared core values is very important. You have to want the same thing. But more important than love, the person you're marrying has to have a correct head. Be reasonable. Marriage is between two reasonable people.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was going to say, Lola said it in a nice way. If we should say it in our local way, their head has to be correct. Is your head correct?
That has to be correct. You know, they have to be reasonable people. I'm always forwarding you guys these stories we see, like that Pastor Shola thing on Facebook, where I'm always sending you, forwarding to you guys. And I always think, how do people end up in this situation? And it's because I feel like, what we forget sometimes is that men are they're hunters. They're very mission oriented. So before you marry, the men are going out, they're going fishing, they're looking for fish, right? So they're like, okay, I want this one. So at that point, there's how to catch that fish is the mission. Mm-hmm. And so if feeling love is what you want, that's what you're going to get before you marry. And bad guys, good guys, they know the assignment, they understand the assignment. So if that's what you want to get caught, they will do it. So that's why it's important before you marry, you put your heart aside and you start looking, okay, I have to submit to this person. What does that mean? What is his family like? What kind of relationship does he have with others? How does he treat other people outside of me? Because he wants me, so he has to treat me nice for me to say yes to his marriage. But other people, how is he treating them? So you got to put your heart aside and start using your head. That's why we said the head has to be correct.
Okay. What do you think?
Okay. What do I think? Late Pastor Bimbo Odukoya said one thing when I was trying to figure out, who am I going to marry? What do I need to do? There was a show that Jesus House DC had, and late Pastor Bimbo Odukoya spoke, and she said, dating is for interview and not intercourse. And like we always say, love, love, love. But like I'm 110% or 1,000% with Lola on this matter that love definitely is not enough. And so because I took I took a lot of courses before I even wanted to get married, and I was very strict. I was super strict, I started interviewing guys, when they wanted to date me, so it was, I know some of my friends said I went to the extreme, but I needed to do that because for me, the person I wanted to make my husband needed to pass certain tests because I could not, and my sister and I were similar, we did the same thing. It was about, okay, how can we benefit each other? What are you bringing to the table? What am I bringing to the table? Did we have issues over, along the line? Of course we did, but I did not let love guide my decision. I did not let, I wasn't swoon away by, oh, he loves me and all of that. There were a lot of questions I asked guys then. There were a lot of things I sat down and I wanted to make sure, can this person take me through course of life? So it was easy for me to weed away a lot of guys that were just flaunting fake love. Even if it was genuine, it wasn't enough for me. So I am with Lola on this one. When people think love is enough, don't get me wrong. Love is a very strong, powerful connection you can have with someone. But there are many things that surround and support that love. And that's what a lot of people just push to the side. And then they experience a lot of issues in their marriages because they didn't take time to water the garden of those other strong foundations that is needed for a sail-through relationship.
Thank you, Tosi and Lola. I totally agree with you, and I think with years of being married, and of course with the way the world is turning today, honestly, I've become very, very practical, about getting married. I'm sure if I was to get married, if I wasn't married and I'm just about to get married, honestly, my perspective is now so different. There's so many things we take for granted that we just think, oh, this person will change with time. We don't check how compatible we are in different areas of our lives. I was talking to someone very close to me this week. I was advising him, and he told me, oh, he wants to propose to his girlfriend. And I was just asking him questions. For example, I asked him, children, does she like children? Does she want to have kids? I mean, these are questions we wouldn't have thought about many years ago because most people wanted to have kids. But today, there are people that genuinely don't want to have kids. So he said to me, "Oh, she's not ready to have kids, but she plans to at some time." So I asked him. I said, "What about you?" He said, "Oh, I want to have kids immediately." I said, "You need to pause because this is very serious.
Mm-hmm.
Don't assume she's going to change her mind."
Mm-hmm.
So this is something both of you really, really need to talk about. And by the time I went over, we talked about it some more. He saw my point that, oh, this is actually very, very serious. So, you don't just get married and think, oh, maybe she'll change her mind in a year or two. What if she doesn't?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we really do need to give thought. Book is asking, how are we defining love?
And I think that was one of the things that, and I was glad when I saw that, because I think for me, um, I was actually going to say, okay, so we all agree, okay, love is not enough. But I feel when we take this thing and make it practical to most people, everybody is still wanting to get married to the person they love. And for a lot of us, for a lot of people, let me rephrase that, the definition of love they might think entails what we've just said. So have you checked out? Do you have the same values? Some people say, yes, we do. Are you comfortable with the family? Yes, I mean, his parents, we grew up relatively okay. For some people, that definition of love, it might include all of this. So, first of all, let me start off by saying with Buki, yes, we need to make sure that both couples have a clear definition of what love is. And I think that's what Lola was saying, and even yourself, Tutu, are saying that when we talk about love, a lot of times it is explained, and most people think about it from the emotional, mental, physical feeling of love. What I think we're all agreeing is that part of is love enough is that, does your love include your discussions on your extended family? Because you must be able to love both families as your own. Are both families, for example, when we say where do you both come from? Are both families lovable like that? If you get what I'm trying to say, I know we should love everybody. So I think when we start looking at defining love and the kind of love that will sustain a relationship and a marriage, the kind of love that would sustain him. In fact, let's really qualify it. A lasting love to celebrate for marriage. I do believe that it's extremely important, and like everybody has said, but the definition of what love is, in most cases, is the problem. I would want to say that love is enough to sustain a relationship, because if God says God is love, to me, all the essence and the fullness of God is summed up in the word love. So love is enough to sustain a relationship. The problem is the definition of love everybody has is different. And therein lies the issue. That's the way I would put it. So I can answer it in a different way.
I was going to say that later, but I'm glad you said that, because what just like you rightly said, the definition of love for the world is completely different from the definition of love from the God realm. Okay, now God is love. He definitely, like you said, is enough to sustain any relationship if we are willing to submit to God's kind of love.
Yes.
The love that we are talking about is the one whereby everyone is saying, I just love him. I just love him. The emotional. That's the one we are talking about today. Is love enough to sustain a relationship? Now, if we introduce the God factor and the love, you understand, the God kind of love, now we definitely know how powerful that is. So that's why I wanted to.
If I can even add to that, what you just said, Tosin, and I think therein lies the complexity of this conversation and what makes it really humbling, especially those of us that are of faith, because we then are vulnerable, because we think most people in our circle or in your circle or the choice you want have the same definition of love, that we all love God, we all love, and we all sort of speak this language, right? But when it really comes, how do we then test it? And I think that's a good point to the question, too, so I think you're asking, that if God says he loves, if we say, so how do you love? He proved it. But in most cases, most people are so caught up in the emotional, mental kind of love that they are not proving it. So maybe what we are even saying now that the way we're saying is like, so is your love proven, and how do we prove it? What
But
do you think?
most people don't define love the way we have said it. Like I said, 20 years ago, if you had said love is enough, I would say yes. But the way I defined love 20 years ago was based on romance novels and rom-com. So I read a lot of romance novels, and that love, as it was described in those novels, is what I wanted. I wanted the guy to be a certain way, and if he did it that way, that was love. If he made me feel that way, and and it was like romance novel, then that was what love was, and I think that's what a lot of people, they're not looking at the sacrificial love of God. They're defining it as, that gym feeling. I just love being around this person. We have a lot of things in common. He finishes my sentences. He knows what I'm thinking before I think it, or what I need before I need it. He pampers me. He spoils me. He does this. That means he loves me, and I feel loved, and I feel appreciated. And then that clouds the decision, so that when the warning signs come, it's like you minimize the warning signs because you're like, but we love each other. That would work itself, out. I don't think the average person thinks of Christ-like sacrifice love, because if we did, many people wouldn't be getting married.
In fact, thank you, Lola. You brought me to the next point. So, especially, and I'm very passionate about a set of singles, and these are like Christian ladies. I see that so many of them genuinely love, genuinely want to do right in marriage, but then they are so in love, and they meet this guy in church who is a cowboy, by the way, who has just come to church to hunt, and they fall in love with him. Sometimes they are so involved, these cowboys, they are very involved in church. They are church workers. Some of them may even be pastors. And so they now prey on these Christ-loving ladies. And then, they fall in love. They are deeply in love. And in those circumstances, I mean, Lola, you mentioned warning signs. So in those circumstances, of course, the signs are there, the red flags are there, but they choose to ignore it. But today, we are trying to bring all these things to light. So let's talk about some of these red flags, so that even when the guy is all tongue talking and he's, professing the God kind of love, but there are no fruits to show it. I mean, something in you is telling you there's something wrong. Sometimes, we may just flag it aside. So what are some of these red flags that ladies should look out for? Even men, I'm sorry, I'm being biased to women, but, men and women should look out for in their relationships. Nike.
Thank you. Well, that's a very good question. This issue of red flags is just, and you're right, it's for, men and for women. And I guess, like we said, when the cowboys and now the cowgirls, coming, just, if I can just maybe crack a joke, I was talking to my husband the other day, and he said, we just have to really pray that this generation, our children's generation, that they really need to be they need the ability to hear from the Holy Spirit. He said, because in a few years' time, we used to say, what color do you like? Where do you like to travel? How many children do you want to have? Now our children need to be saying, have you always been a man? Have you always been a woman? Because some people, they finally come to Christ after some different things. So I was laughing and I was like,
Mika, not to cut you off. Even you have to ask for real men and women. You have to ask for my girls. You have to ask the guys, have you ever been in a bisexual or
maybe when you were in college, were you with one? And thank God you're saved, but we just need to, there's so many questions now that, and so when we talk about red flags, there can be so many of them, but absolutely Tutu, first, just that grace, because we need to be sensitive, and that's where I'm coming from, that, it doesn't mean that we're looking for faults. When we talk about is love enough, the two imperfect people are trying to get married. So there has to be some, ability to deal with issues. Most of us, just because somebody doesn't have the best of family does not mean that they're not going to be a good spouse to you, but you just need to know what you are getting into. But when sometimes I think a red flag is when someone, I'm going to say this in a careful way, when someone loves you in a way that even it's almost obsessive. As women, sometimes we are very flattered, but if someone loves you and it's so obsessive, if you remember the show we had last week that we're talking to the council, they said something about, and we said it at times, if I'm speaking to two people who are in a relationship and they've been dating for about 7 to 8 months and they've not had a major, misunderstanding that, let's come to Jesus, are we still doing this kind of thing? To me, it's a red flag. If things are too good, everything is perfect, the love is so intense, you should start to think also, is there something that I'm missing? Are we too caught up in the emotional part of this? Am I, really asking the right sort of questions and getting the right sort of responses? And I just want to add this part is a bit tricky because so many relationships are unfolding online. In the past, we had to be with each other. You may miss somebody, but you have to, no matter how busy you are, you have to say, let's go to the movies, let's do this, just because you had to engage. Now, I was saying before the show started that because of my tape, I get excited because I know at least on a regular basis, I get to see my ladies, my friends on video, will laugh, we chat. So people are so into this online world. It's taken a longer period of time to unearth certain things. So I think that in itself, very, very intense, obsessive love is a red flag.
Thank you, Nike. Tosin, can you share some of the red flags to look out for?
I remember one of our shows I had, talked about Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where, we've seen these movies and we've heard canceled people, and in real life, 1 minute they love so strongly, and 1 minute they go so crazy. You can't even, the person in the relationship can't even marry the two. 1 minute they're yelling and abusive and all of that, and then you're like, oh my God, I have to leave this person is breaking me down. But the next minute, when they love on you so deeply. They buy you things and they tell you that if you leave them they will die, those type of things. And so so I mean, I've seen it in and things like that. So those are red flags whereby you can't even marry the person's personality. It's hot and cold 1 minute. You say something and they just flare up. And another red flag is how they treat the people they claim to love, their mom, their dad, I know all relationships are not perfect, but the way they treat their siblings and people around them, it tells if they would respect you. It tells how they would care for you. You see them just disrespecting their parents left, right, and center, regardless of whether the parents are perfect. They're just disrespectful, or even authority, even to their pastors. I've seen guys, someone has been disrespectful to us that we were counseling and disrespectful to other pastors, and then he can't even answer to authority, and you expect him to answer to you or to want to be with you. These are things that people see and they just excuse away when, so there are a lot of red flags.
Yeah, and I would like the audience to please share some of the share in the comment section about some of the red flags that come to mind. And honestly, with some of these red flags you've shared, I know sometimes during courtship, when these red flags pop up, this couple in a relationship may decide to go to their pastor or to someone to iron these things out. Ladies, this is my free advice to you. Some of this, even if the pastor, I don't know, I don't care who the person is, even if they say give this person another chance, oh, it was a moment of anger, trust your instinct. Don't disregard your instincts. Trust it. Okay.
That your has inside it. Tell us what is happening.
I was watching with the girls yesterday. We were watching some show, first season of it on Netflix. something bling empire, something about some rich Asians in California. And one of the couples, she just finished talking about how they're in love, how she came out of some relationship and now she's in love, 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 love. And then the guy, she went out with a friend and the guy woke up, he didn't see her there. So he calls her and he's yelling on the phone and abusing her and shouting on her. So I paused the TV. I looked at my girls and I was like, because I saw that as a moment to, 11-year-old, 19-year-old. And look, I said, this is a moment to educate them. I'm like, this one, never accept it. This kind of abuse, never accept it. If a guy raises his hand, even if it doesn't land, just the fact that he raised it towards you, wherever your father and I are in this world, just carry your load and come. We will, even if we have to blow up air mattress in our condo in the Maldives, wherever we just come and think. Because once you allow that first time, and he gets away with it, it doesn't go back from there. It will keep going and it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger after marriage. So that one is definitely kind of like, I don't care if the hand landed, the fact that he raised it towards you.
And
just to piggyback on what Lola is saying, I don't know if you guys know about LMN Lifetime Movie Network. They purposely do movies that, are geared towards teenagers and young love. And so I would purposely pick a lot of times I'll pick a movie and I will make my girl sit there with me. Of course, Tireni and my boy is still very young, but I'll bring him on soon. But I'll make my girl sit there with me and watch these movies. And I would, just like Lola would do, I will pause every moment and I'll tell them, what do you think is wrong with this scene? What do you think just happened? What can you watch again? What should the girl do? What should the guy have done? That's what I do, because I really, they have shows on about smoking. They have shows about anorexia. They have shows about, all manner of things. So I try to make them watch. So key to people out there, try and catch on some of their shows. It's really an eye opener.
Because it's tough. It's tough dating now. It's not like when we, they, like you said, Nika, they have to face so many different things that we didn't have to deal with, that they have to deal with. The world is very different than,
and in
during
fact,
our time.
When Nika said, most relationships, some start from online, they barely see each other. Still talking about these red flags. Honestly, another free advice, ladies, gentlemen, make sure you do some form of background check. There's some things, I'm a Christian, but at the same time, we live in a world, with people. So, and, if your jobs don't just look at your resume and hire you just based on what you put on your resume, they would still do background checks. Some do intense, some even investigate, they hire investigators to talk to people that have known you for the last 7 years, personally, one-on-one. And that's for a job that you may not even work at for 5 years. How much more a lifetime marriage? So this thing, we're smiling here, but it's really, really serious. So please, invest, do a background check, criminal background check. You will be amazed what some of these things can unfold. Credit check, do a credit check, know what you're getting into. So you have been saving money all your life, and then you fall into the hands of a spender who doesn't even pay their debts. So
but they used to do that. This is, we often talk about culture in a negative way, but this is one of those times where culture actually is in a positive light, like our parents growing up. Yes. However informal it was, there was always a background check. They would send someone to go and investigate where you came from, who your father was, who, that kind of stuff. Now we've made it kind of like that all that is not needed. But
Lola,
you're absolutely right.
You're spot on. And I was going to bring that from the angle of, when it comes to, the checks with the family and the compatibility with family. I think sometimes we underestimate it. And for a lot of us that are grown up, and, I know that people watching the show, they're watching from different places. It might not be you. It might be you as a parent in a few years having children, but people are so upwardly mobile People are meeting each other in different places. People are having relationships for a year and a half, 2 years before they even introduce the person to their parents. At this point, they are very invested in it. The parents, if they've been praying for a long time, are just saying, praise the Lord, and as you reassure them, but you're going to marry into a family you don't know a lot about. Can you imagine you're going to have children into a family that you may have only met them twice when you traveled on once for one Christmas, another time for that you take your girlfriend home for your parents 20th anniversary, and we make a lot of assumptions until you marry. The families are starting to come into your homes, and you start to see huge differences. But I think you can even spot the family issue just by really looking at how you both engage and your values, because we're a product of the homes we came from. Sometimes I may not necessarily need to really meet your parents to know. Sometimes in conversations, you hear people say, one thing my parents never stood for was this. One major thing my family believe is this. When you hear those things, they're little things, but I think things come out from there as well. So we have to be very, very intentional. I think, like Tosin said, there has to be an interview mindset when you're in a relationship, because you're the project, like they always say. So you are a project. So, and it's the same it's not the man and just the woman. Some of our ladies are sharp nowadays. I mean, some ladies are hunters. They position. I mean, when I watch some of these, rock movies and, Nigerian cultural movies, a lot of women are out there as well. They know what they want. They are scoping the guy. They are doing certain things to get things to work. So both male and female really need to be very, very savvy and in tune with the spirit when it comes to spotting red flags.
Thank you, ladies. Do we have comments on red flags from our audience? Can we read some of the comments from our audience? So Buki says, both ways. Talk about it before and proceed with background, credit, health check. So you both go into the marriage with eyes wide open. That's really spot on. Thank you, Buki. All right, then. So moving forward, let's consider relationships that probably didn't have the types of red flags we are talking about today, but they naturally evolved into marriage. What are some of the reasons why this love may still not be enough? Because today we see some couples that they started well, they've done great things together, great family, children, their lives are going well. They seem to have it all, but at the end of the day, something still goes wrong. So why is all this not enough to sustain the concept of everlasting love? So now I want us to maybe take case in point, like the celebrity divorces we're seeing today, or even among Christians as well. Like maybe, these people love the Lord, but at the end of the day, they still separate, they still get a divorce. So what's going on, Nike?
Waiting to say, tell me what happened to all of them. as I came across, I think it's so interesting that I will say this from a very let me use the word. We really have to say this from a very humble place, because having been married by God's grace, this would be our 20th year. And thank you, 7 years of of courtship. So I've been with my husband, to God be the glory, for 27 years. So when people say they've been married for 27 years, I think this week we even had the Blair Underwood and his wife also separated, and rest of it, and they're all falling into 25 years, 26 years, 27 years. It really makes you have to wonder. But I do think that a lot of times what we've talked about in the beginning, and some of the things that happen, I think marriage is such a powerful force. Love is such a powerful force that people can, and we human beings are quite complex, that we can make things work until we feel the stakes are no longer as high as we feel they are. A lot of what I'm seeing from some of these marriages, are at the stage where I always look at the individuals and where they are. Marriage is made up of two individuals. The essence and the vision behind marriage is that two should become one. They should become one flesh. That's what should happen. But what we're starting to find out is that on that journey, there are what I call forces against marriage. So everything we've said before, we're trying to say, look, when you get into marriage, there are natural forces that will come. Life is going to hit your marriage. Even if your love was beautiful, perfect, God ordained, if you had a dream and God told you this is your spouse, and both of you dreamt it the same night, it's no guarantee, because life has forces that come against it. And so what we were saying in the first few parts, in my opinion, is give yourself a fighting chance. If you don't even deal with some of these issues, you're not even ready. Now, when you do get in, I honestly believe that the foundation you build is what sustains a marriage. By God's grace, I say this respectfully, I genuinely believe that I married, my best friend. I don't just say that, I really do. And so there are times when I have had a very challenging time with my best friend. I've had great times with my best friend. I've had problems with my best friend that we needed to solve together. We've had the thrill of becoming parents and experiencing that together. We've gone through the pain of challenges of, from our careers, from our businesses. All of those things have happened. What has sustained us, that's why I said I have to speak for myself, was a real intense friendship. So for me, I don't have the answer to this. When I read the notice that people are separating, and they say stuff like, we will continue, she will always be my special love. We will be, one of them that I saw this week said, we will remain best of friends as we co-parent together. How do you remain best of friends? I think it's back to the point of being able to define it. Now I stand to be corrected, but I just feel that, to me, what you're saying is, I want to explore more out of life. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of doing life with you the way we do it. For some people, maybe they just need a newness. The children have gone out and you need to rediscover yourself. But if you don't feel there is value in rediscovering yourself, you want to go out. I love a post I saw on Instagram, and he said, so after 27 years, you want to go and ask somebody, what color do you like? I love that so much. You want to start on that level. And so I think it's very complicated, but I think at some point, foundational issues, friendship issues, focus issues, whatever it is, and the change people are going through are the forces that cause them to have to feel enough of this. I want to go my own way. Sorry, I know my answer was a bit long, but
yeah.
I want to jump in.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Tete. I wanted to jump in that the Bible says, can two walk together unless they agree? That is something that I place strong value for, because if two of you cannot communicate and your communication is not working, one is saying A, you're hearing B, and all of that, you're not communicating, you're not taking time out periodically to reassess, where are we in this relationship? How far have we gotten? What are our goals? And somebody feels like they're being left out, or someone feels they're not being heard, and all of that thing. Communication, to me, is a strong thing of why, this love may not be enough. People are not talking. People are not working together. They're no longer seeing each other as teammates. Nika says something about being best friends. You've got to figure out, you've got to make that person, because that person is on your team. That person is not against you. When people start seeing themselves as adversaries, like, they don't want me to get ahead in life, and they start hoarding things, or they're not transparent anymore. They're not just, because the two shall become one. That's what the Bible says. When there's no more merging to be one, and one just wants to rip apart, to me, that is a very strong thing. I know there are many, but this one to me is very, very key.
Thank you, Tosin. And, so that makes me think that, as we get older, as we grow older, as our marriages mature, I guess it's safe to say that love evolves, because the things that you liked when you first got married, things may have changed. So, for example, it's possible that, and this is just me helping them think, I don't know, that, at the beginning of the marriage, maybe like both, in some families where they agree for one spouse to be home to take care of the children, while the other spouse is out there working, and then now the children are grown. So things have changed. So the person that used to love to be home, they may decide they don't want to be home anymore. So this is the time for them to explore their dreams, So they suddenly have this dream to go out and, make a difference somewhere. But then the other spouse who has been working all this while feels, this is the time for me to sit back and, be home and spend time with the love of my life. But then the love of his life is not available. I mean, so how do we, what do we need to do? And this even applies to us too, that are married today, and other people that will be getting married. So what do you think we need to do, as we evolve with age and with our responsibilities? What do we need to do to prevent love from dying in the marriage, from for people to just not consider leaving each other? Anyone? Lola?
I think that for marriage to last, we need to make room, allow each other to grow, and we grow together. Like Tosin said, you have to remain in agreement throughout. So it starts from before you marry, making sure that both of you have the same paradigm about marriage and the same core values about marriage. So you want the same things. You have the same vision and dreams for what you want to accomplish together as a couple. And then you'd have to do periodic checks throughout. Do we still believe this? Do we still want this? Do we still, again, where the Tosin says about communication. So checking periodically, because if you're 20 something and you marry, you don't know how you're going to feel or want when you're 40 something, right? So, and vice versa, for both the man and woman. So you're both growing. And the important thing is, as you're growing together. So you're doing periodic checks to say, okay, do we still believe in the same thing? If not, why? How can we adjust? Because we're committed to this for the long haul. So what do I need to do? How do I need to adjust to allow you to grow the way you need to grow, and vice versa? And the problem is, a lot of times people don't allow the other spouse to grow. They want them to remain the same person they were when they first married. That's not possible. And so you have to, just as your kids are growing and leaving the house, and what ends up happening, why people, I don't know for all people, but a lot of times is the children grow up, they leave the house. And all of a sudden you look on the other side of the bed and you're like, who are you? Because the things you jointly did together, your conversation for the last 20 years was, are you doing pick up or drop off? Which one, are you cooking or not cooking? The activities, the daily activities of life is what you did together. And you kept postponing your desires and you never talked about it. And then when the kids move out, then you now want to reassess at that point, and you realize that you're both in totally different spaces. And it's too late to then figure out, can we make this work or not? So I think it's important, as my sisters have said, give each other room to grow together in an agreement, and communicate often about it. That way as you're going along, you remain in agreement throughout. And it's not like you're waking up next to a stranger 30 years down the line, because your spouse would have already known, this is my wife's desire. So what do I need to do to make room for her? She wants to, after the kids leave the house, she wants to go there and volunteer and do all this stuff. What adjustments do I need to make to allow her to do that? And the same with the guy. Maybe the guy wants to retire at 50. And, okay, how can I, as his wife, make that happen? What adjustments do we need to make now so that we can, do that at age 50?
Wow. Thank you so much, Lola.
If it's okay, I was sorry, add to what Lola just said, but bring it back. I think this is such a great question. But I think I want to even just bring it back to, couples that are even struggling in the first year, second, third, fourth. It's amazing, the couples who hung in there and after 27, 30 years, decided to go their way. It's, very unfortunate, but Lola was spot on in just even taking us through that journey. What I find interesting when we say is love enough in a marriage is the shocker that people get maybe when they get in, and Lola explained the, the initial romance that, she was expecting, and, from the books that she thought that's how it would be. At some point, there's a level of maturity needed for marriage that helps you to transition and say, this is what I have to deal with. But I'm seeing more and more younger couples who are, I don't know if it's a function of the age, so impatient. And I don't think the value of marriage is as much as a lot of us placed on it previously. And I think people in this day and age have a lower threshold. I don't know if it's a case of lack of hope or whatever, but most people are not even willing to do the work that it takes. It's like, this is a big mistake. This would always be the mistake. This can never change. And they just want to be out of the whole thing. So I think that's also another thing, that a generation that doesn't have a very resilient spirit. Now, I'm not talking about resilience with complete brokenness, red flag kind of thing. I'm talking about where technically these are just the challenges of marriage. I think people need to also think about the resilience of who you're getting married to. So when those tough times come through, you can deal with it. And the last point I just wanted to make was, because it's conflict that shows it, and that's why I wanted to tie it together. So many people are running away from problems and challenges. They don't have the ability, the skills, the emotion to manage it. So when conflict comes, it's breaking up a lot of homes because people don't even know how to handle it. And like Tosin said, the secret to handling conflict is really in communication.
I wanted to add to what you guys have said, which is fantastic. The Bible says in the last days, people will become lovers of themselves. And a lot of Christians have gotten caught up with, oh, I'm not going to accept this. Oh, I'm not going to take that. And I'm not saying anyone should live in a loveless marriage or live in a situation or whatever. But one thing is, nobody wants to try anymore. Nobody wants to, work anymore. The Bible tells the man to, love his wife, and to love his wife. Yes. And the definition of God's love is to sacrifice. Okay. And he also tells the woman to submit to her husband. That means you also have to sacrifice yourself and your ego and everything. I'm an alpha female. I like, I'm not, the easy one. I'm not the quiet, soft one from the village or whatever. I'm the go get it. But over 20 years, there are things where I had to submit. It was difficult to chew, but as a child of God, I have to respect this. People are not submitting anymore, and people are not loving sacrificially anymore. So when you and your husband are talking about, okay, I want to go to medical school, and you have to sacrifice through this period, when he gets out of medical school, the plan is for the wife to now, do what she wants to do. But there's the selfish part whereby the man just wants to run his own agenda and forgets that the wife has submitted to him all this while. So nobody wants to love sacrificially, and nobody wants to submit sacrificially. Everybody wants to be lovers of themselves. And that's not what God intends for, our marriages. But that's what we're seeing, whereby people as rich as Bezos and as rich as, the Gates, so money is not their issue, right? Money is not their issue. Why are they leaving themselves? Because nobody wants to sacrifice when it comes to who should head or who should lord or who should, people hate that word, but who should, be the lead, or who should, so everyone. And I wanted to say this concerning the Bezos and Gates. I bet you their issue stemmed from many years ago. It just didn't stem from when we are hearing about it. So the foundation was already faulty many years ago. We're just hearing about it now. So I don't think there was any merging together, whereby there was a period, but I'm sure that the separation already, and it became so wide now. And they're like, you know what, let's not deceive ourselves anymore. So I'm just trying to make our Christian brothers and sisters understand, and even anyone that just desires to be in their relationship for a long time, we need to get to the place whereby we are sacrificial in our love. We are patient. We persevere. Love, it's not like Lola said, you've got to get to even Nike said it, you've got to get to a mature place in relationship. It's not that, oh, he doesn't give me his camera, so therefore I'm leaving. That's not the way it works. You're in this for the long haul. And mind you, as Christians, our children are watching us. They're watching us. So if we want them to push through things, if we want them to show that they have the gusto. We got to show them that we have the gusto, because we can't just be preaching what we cannot take ourselves. That's what I want to.
Thank you.
And I think there's a fine line though too. I totally agree with you, but want to reiterate that there's a fine line between, knowing what to sacrificially take and what to let go.
Absolutely.
Because again, it goes back to marriage is for reasonable people. There's no sacrificial acceptance of abuse. There's no sacrificial acceptance of narcissism or
correct.
Thanks
for the disclaimer, Lola.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, because I know that's not what you're trying to say, and so that's why I want to clarify.
Oh yeah,
that.
but we know, we know how some people have used
talked about that earlier in the show. Yeah, that's
absolutely.
Thank you so much. I really want us to get through some of the comments. So, Nike, can you please read some of the comments we have?
Okay, I think Sosin has it posted. Okay, I should read it. Sorry. So Buki had said love does not necessarily change. And I think that's in answer to the last question, which is interesting. How love is expressed does change depending on the season, how you as an individual change, your needs, etc. So I think that was a very good point. And there was another point about Buki had made about how we manage conflict, which is inevitable, is critical in building or destroying a marriage. And quite a lot of responses, emojis and people, people. I know a lot of people are pretty, strong people are quietly listening, but it's always good to just, reiterate, just the reality, because I think this is just the reality of where we are.
Yeah.
I wanted us to touch on some red flags, just to put that into the show that Kenny had said. So here's one.
Oh, asking you to keep certain things private that in your heart would otherwise share with your parents or advisors before making commitment to marriage. Thank you, Kenny. That's absolutely important. Disagreements are expected, but use of abusive, profane language during arguments will only be worse in marriage. That's true. So whatever you're seeing in relationships, expect times 10 in marriage. Yeah. So please, let us watch out for the red flags. And Tosin, when you were talking, you were being very rude to village girls. So please, village girls have open eyes now.
No, I was going to jump you when Tosin said that. I went to say, Tosin, village girls are hard now. Don't try.
Yes, so.
Emma, I apologize. Please, I apologize.
Michael, thank you. Michael says he's learning a lot. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. This is what we strive to do. Thank you, Elizabeth. And, my last question would be, so how do you prevent love from dying in a marriage? I know we've touched on some of it, but what are the practical things that we can do to prevent love from dying?
I was just going to say in a very simple way that Lola, I think, captured it so well. I always say this when I'm talking to couples. Communication is the blood of a relationship, is the lifeblood. And in communication is conflict resolution, conflict management. Forces will come against your relationship. Like Tosi said, can two work together unless they agreed? Communication is where agreement comes from. And that's what helps you. I'm not saying that's the final answer, but that's definitely one thing that is important if you want to keep your marriage or a relationship alive.
Thank you, Nike. And of course, in line with, communication, I also believe that, having open and honest conversation with each other, being able to tell each other the truth, it may be painful, but at least, be honest with each other.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to add is what Nike said, best friend. Best friend. Can you hide things from your best friend? Even God said, can I hide this thing that I want to do? I'm telling you, to be vulnerable. There are times where I'll be upset with my husband and I'll say, but I'll still tell him stuff and I'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have told you that. But I'm so used to telling him stuff. I'm so used to calling him. I'm so used to getting his approval. I'm not approval in that sense that if he says no, whatever. But I just like him to be in support of what I'm doing. And we talk a lot and we laugh a lot. That's another thing.
In fact, Tosi, I just wanted to buttress your point. You actually settle fights a bit quicker because there's a lot you want to. Let's finish this fight so we can continue because now we are holding all the good gist. Because
exactly.
let's just sort this fight out. Then you automatically want to pour out everything when you are really.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
laugh a lot. That's one thing. We laugh a lot. So whatever even in an argument, we are laughing. And even if we come back to settle it another day, we are laughing. A lot of people they've lost the laugh. There's resentment, there's so many things, but we have learned to laugh a lot. We've learned to communicate. He's my very, very best friend. I tell him a lot. I mean, he tells me and shares. So to me, in over 20 years, that's one way we prevent, and we always want to be around each other. Our children are really tired and sick of the lovey-dovey stuff he always wants to do with me and all of that. So we show our kids, we're emulating this thing in front of our kids, So I mean, that's one way that I wanted to add.
Thank you.
And love is action. I think someone put it in the chat that love is action. It's not it's more than a feeling. There's feeling involved, but it's action. You have to be really deliberate about it, about cultivating it, about feeding it, about watering it, or it will die. And so all the things that everybody has said, go back, read how God loved his people, how Jesus loved the church, and then actively just apply that.
Thank you. And I like what Unique, somebody made a comment, Unique Christ love. She said, teasing each other and fulfill life. That's so true. I mean, you should be able to laugh at each other, laugh with each other. That's very, very important. Somebody else made a comment. Quiet personal time with your spouse. That's also very, very important. So I just want to thank everyone. Our time is well spent. I truly enjoyed this, having this conversation with my ladies and, from our audience as well. Thank you all so much. And I'll let Niket talk to us about our next My Take.
Well, I mean, it's just been a fantastic, show. I really enjoyed it. Thanks to I mean, one of the things we love about My Take is that we all have a take. We all have things we're very passionate about, and we love when we're able to share it together. And I think this is really the heart of My Take. And thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in. Please subscribe if you haven't. Please subscribe. Kindly share. If you can share the link to this and just put a simple link on your WhatsApp story, for example, and let someone listen to it. There's a lot of hurt out there, and we're not even minimizing the fact that there are a lot of people struggling under the burden of a painful marriage, and sometimes it takes only a little thing to tweak it and to make it better. Also, I just want to say, for those who might not be married yet, we did a show at the beginning of this season on wedding busters, and we said, as much as we celebrate marriages, we love weddings and all of that, when you see red flags, you really just need to rethink the whole thing. So this is part of what we're passionate about, part of what we love, and we look forward to you joining us on Saturday, June 19th, as we talk about debunking myths on living single. So this season, we're going to be debunking a lot of things, and we're looking forward to it. Hey, guess what? We love having our audience being a part of this. We've been saying we want to do something different. Do you have a contribution? Do you want to say something? Send us a message. You can go on our Instagram page and send us a direct message. We have the ability to, we would love to do it. So we actually want to try something new whereby we can bring you into the studio. You can make your comment. You can join us, and we can have a show whereby we have different people. Someone wants to debunk myths. So if you have a myth you want debunked and you are in front of your camera and you've notified us in advance, we're going to let you do it live. So watch out for the next episode. It's going to be fun. Elizabeth said, yes, the unmarried one. Oh, I was about to ask. We are ready. We're bringing it.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, DM us. If you have some myth that you are like, what, we need to address this myth. That is going to be the show. So we look forward to you being here. Subscribe, follow us on Instagram. Please share the link. And we look forward to seeing you very soon. Take care. God bless. Stay safe. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.